Welcome back to this lesson. We are going to see how to perform addition and subtraction from time. Here we are going to add time to one another. I have the start time. I have the time that we want to add to the start time. So let's display the result here. I select this cell. I type equals to. Then I select the cell that contains our initial time is 1 a.m. I add plus. Let's add 2 hours to the 1 a.m. and see what it is going to return. I select the cell that contains the time we want to add. I press enter. Do you see it returns 3 a.m.? It simply means when you add 2 hours to 1 a.m., it returns 3 a.m. As you can see the result here. Here I have 1:30 a.m. Let's add 11:30 hours to it and see the result. I select this cell. I type equals to. Select this cell. I add plus this cell that contains the time we want to add and press enter. Do you see it return 1 p.m.? It simply means that if you have 1:30 a.m. and add 11:30 to it, it is going to return 1 p.m. From 1:30 a.m. you add 11:30 hours to it, it is going to end 1 p.m. And that is exactly what it returns here. You can see that the time is being added. Let's display the result serial number here. Select this cell. I type equals to. Let me just output the result. Press enter to return the time. Let me format the cell to general format. Under number format, I select general, and this is the serial number. We can also get the serial number of this one. Let me just use the autofill like this, and here we have the serial number. Okay, let me output the formula here. I type equals to. I use formula text to output the formula. Select the cell that contains our result. Close the function and press enter. This is the formula. We are performing addition. Let me use the autofill to get the order like this. Just like we added the time to one another, we can also subtract time from one another. Let's perform the subtraction here. I select this cell. So we are going to subtract the start time from the end time. Okay. So that means we can be able to subtract time from one another. So I select this cell. I type equals to. I select the end time. Then I type minus the start time and press enter. Do you see here? I have end time as 10 a.m. but I'm subtracting 9 from it. That is 9 hours from 10 a.m. That means I'm going to have 1 a.m. You can see the result here. Let's perform subtraction for the second one. Let me just use the autofill here like this. You can see this one display hash here. The reason why it displayed this hash here, it is because it returns a negative time. Okay, we are subtracting a bigger time here from the smaller one. You can see we are subtracting 4 p.m. from 3 p.m. As a result, it returns a negative time. You can see from these two tips, dates and times that are negative or too large show as hash. No matter how you expand this, it will not show the time. You can see it will not show the time. That is it, because it is a negative time. Let us display the serial number so that you will see the value here. So I select this cell, I type equals to, let's just output the result. Press enter. Okay, let me change this cell to general format. Change it to general. This is the time serial number. Let's get for this one that show the hash. Let me use the autofill. Here we have it. You can see that the time is negative. Okay, you can see that it is negative. That's why it returned this hash. Let's output the formula. Select this cell. I type equals to. I use the formula text. Let me select the result. Close the function and press enter. This is the formula. We are doing subtraction here. Let me use the autofill. And here we have it. With these examples, let's work with the data I have here. We are going to perform addition here for the first set of time here. We are going to perform addition. I select this cell. I type equals to. I select the start time. I add plus. Then the time we want to add to it. Press enter. Do you see? This one return 5 p.m. That means 9 a.m. plus 8 hours is going to give us 9 p.m. That is it. Let me use the autofill to get the rest. Okay, here we have it. Let me fill without formatting. You can see the corresponding time we have here. You can see the second one, 6 a.m. plus 12 hours return 6:30 p.m. You can see 10 p.m. plus 4 hours return 2 a.m. And we have 10 p.m. plus 4 hours also return. It is the same thing as this one. Let me change the time. Let me change it to, let's say, 10. You see, the return 8 a.m. 10 p.m. plus 10 hours return 8 a.m. You can see it here. Let's output the serial numbers. Select this cell. I type equals to, I select the cell that contains the result. Press enter. So it returns the time. Let me format this cell to general format. Change it to general. Here we have the serial number. Then I can use the autofill to get the rest. Like this. Let me fill without formatting. Here we have it. You can see the serial number of each of the results we have here. Let me show the formula. I select this cell. Go to the formula bar. I type equals to formula text. So I select the cell that contains our result. Close the function and press enter. This is the formula. I use autofill like this to get the others. Fill without formatting. Here we have it. Just like we perform addition, we can also perform subtraction. Okay, so let's perform subtraction here, subtracting time from one another. I select this cell, type equals to, I select the end time, type minus the start time, and press enter. You see it return 4 a.m. That is 1 p.m. minus 9 a.m. will give us 4 a.m. Let me use the autofill to get the rest like this. Fill without formatting. You can see the last one is showing the hash. This is because we are subtracting the larger time from the smaller time. It returns a negative time. That's why it is showing this hash. Okay, that means Excel cannot display a negative time. Let us get the time serial number so that you will see the value. Select this cell. I type equals to. Just output the result. Press enter. To return the time, let us change it to general format. Select the number format and select general. And here we have it. This is the time serial number. Let me use the autofill to get the rest like this. Fill without formatting. You can see the last one is a negative time. Okay, it is negative. That's why you can see the hash. It is showing negative. Then let's get the formula. Select this cell. I type equals to. I'm going to use formula text. Type formula text. Select the cell that contains the result. Close the function and press enter. This is the formula. We are performing subtraction here. Let me use the autofill to get the rest. Like this. Fill without formatting. Here we have it. You can see that you can add time together and also subtract time from one another. I hope with these examples and illustrations, you can be able to add time or subtract time from one another. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this session, we are going to discover several ways of entering dates and time in Excel. You can type in various configurations of date and Excel will automatically recognize it as a date, and upon pressing enter, it will convert it to a date serial number and apply a date format on the cell. For example, I have several formats of entering the date in Excel. I have several formats here. I have several formats. You can see it. We are going to explore each of it one after another. Okay. I believe in practical. Let us jump into Excel so that you will understand several ways of entering dates and time. I open Excel. Okay, I have more format here. I have more different ways of entering date and time. If you enter any of these value I have here into the Excel cell, Excel is going to recognize it as date. For example, if I want to enter 1st of January 2024, let me select this cell. I can just type 1-1-1 2024 like this. I can enter it like this and press enter. Do you see Excel recognize this as date? You can see under this number format here, it has formatted it as a date. Okay, let me just select a different cell here. I just selected this cell. Let me enter the second one, which is this one. You can equally copy it. I will not enter all of them. Okay, I have already shown you different format you can enter date and time, and Excel will recognize it. Okay, so let me enter the second one. I enter 1/1/24. Then this 24 represent the year, that is 2024. Excel is going to recognize what I enter in this cell as 1st of January 2024. Let me press enter now. Do you see it recognize it as 1st of January 2024? You can also see it display at the formula bar when you highlight the cell. I will just pick any of this format randomly, but you can experiment with any of them. I've already experimented with all of them. Okay, I can also select this cell and type 1 space January, that abbreviation of January, another space, then 2024. Okay, let's see whether Excel is going to recognize this as a valid date. If it recognizes it as a valid date, it is going to display 1st January 2024. I just type 1 January as abbreviation and 2024. Let me press enter now. Do you see that Excel recognizes it as a valid date format, and you can see it at the formula bar. You can see it display 1st of January 2024. Depending on the format you are entering the date, it is also formatting it based on the format you are entering it. Because I enter it to have the abbreviation of the month, you can see it recognizes it as 1st January 2024 with the 2-digit year. Okay, now let me select another one here. Let me select this one that have a full month display. Let me select this one. I will just paste it here. Do you see that Excel recognized that date format? They recognize it and also abbreviated it like the previous one. What I entered there is January. I just entered January in full like this. Then 1, separate it with comma. I enter 2024 like this. It simply means that when you enter a date like this, Excel is going to recognize it as a valid date. Let me press enter now. You see it is still return the same thing. So I want you to experiment with different format of entering date in Excel. I also have the one that is not valid. When you experiment with this one, you just tick the standard that you want to be applying for your date. Okay, mostly this standard and this standard are the most common standard we use in Excel. For example, can equally enter a date like this, 1st of January 2024. Press enter and we have it 1st of January 2024. If you enter this format I have here using period to separate it, let's try it out. I type January 1st 2024. Let's see whether Excel will recognize it as a date. Let me press enter. Do you see Excel does not recognize it as a date? And if you look at the formula bar, it is still the same thing. Excel just see this as a normal text. It does not recognize what we have here as a date. If I copy this one like this and paste it in the cell, Excel does not recognize it as a date. As you can see, it is only showing it as a text. Okay, we also have some tips here. Date that display hash in a cell usually indicate that the column is simply not wide enough to display it. Okay, so what it means that if I reduce this cell that contains this date now, let me reduce it to be very small. Do you see it is now showing hash? All the valid date now is now showing hash. Okay, you see those one that does not display as date, it is just a normal text. But all those one that have valid date, because the column is very small to contain the date, that is why it is showing this hash. Okay, and that is what this tips is referring you to. If I expand it now, you can see it is now showing all the date. So let let me quickly enter different format here. Let me select this one. I'll be copying it and pasting it. Copy it. Okay, Excel recognize it as a date. Let me copy this one and paste here. Okay, Excel also recognize it as a date. Let me copy this format. You can see different way of entering the date, and Excel is recognizing them as a date. Let me also copy this one, paste it here. Excel also recognize it. Let me select this format and paste it here. Excel is recognizing them as a valid date. Let me just copy this one and paste it here. Excel also recognize it as a date. Look at this one that I just have 1/1. Now there is no year. Let's see what Excel is going to return. Let me copy it and put it in this cell. Let me put it here. Do you see that Excel recognize it as 1st January 2024? Okay, because even though I do not include the year, Excel applied the current year. Because Excel recognized this as January 1st, so it applied the current year, which is 2024. You can see it here. Let me just copy this one, the one with full month name. Let me put it here to recognize it. Let me shift this one small. Let me copy the invalid date now and put it here. Okay, this is just a normal text. Excel does not recognize this one as a date. As you can see, it is appearing the same way I put it in the cell. Okay, let me output what Excel returned for each of these formats. All I need to do, I select this cell. Then let me just type equals to, I select this cell that contain our date. Remember, this is how we enter the date. Okay, but Excel recognize it as a valid date. Let me just press enter. You can see to recognize them as a valid date. Let me just use the autofill. Okay, I just use the autofill and you can see that it fill the rest. But here, remember that this one, it just display it as a text. This one is not a valid date. Now let us get the serial number of each of these dates we entered here. I select this cell. I'm going to type equals to. All I need to do is just to output the date, okay, like this. Do you see it return it as a date? For you to change this as a serial number, all you need to do is to change the number format to general. Let me change it to general. Do you see that it returned the serial number? Okay, let me use the autofill. Let me use the autofill like this. You can see that all the valid dates have a serial number, but this one that is not valid, do you see it? It return it the way it is because it is just a normal text, okay? I hope with this illustration, you understand the different format of entering date in Excel. Stay tuned as we continue in this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this session, we are going to discover different ways of entering time in Excel worksheet. When you enter time, you must follow a strict format of at least hour and minute. That is, the hour and minutes are separated by a colon with no spaces either side. Entering the hour and minute component will result in a time formatted in a military time. Example, 2 p.m. is formatted as 14:00 in military time. Okay, that means if you enter this value in Excel, Excel is going to format it in this format. This is the military time. Remember, they use 24 hours. Locally, we make use of 12 hours format, while in military time, they make use of 24 hours format, okay? That's why 2 p.m. is equivalent to 14:00 hour. If you enter a time that include a second component, example, 3 hours, 15 minutes, 40 seconds, Excel will automatically format the cell in this format, which is hour, minute, and second. If you want the time to be formatted with AM or PM, you can simply enter a space after the time and then type AM or PM, or apply the number format to the cell later. For example, try typing or even copy and paste the following time into an empty cell, okay? You can see here I have different ways of entering the time, okay? So you can experiment with any of these formats. For you to understand how to enter the time in different formats, let us jump into Excel. I open Excel. Alright guys, I have added more time format here. That is different ways of entering time format. Simply means that Excel is going to recognize any of these when you enter it as a time format, okay? For example, if I select this cell and type 900 like this, do you see that Excel recognizes this time format as 9 a.m.? You can see it in the formula bar. Excel recognizes it as 9 a.m. You can also use a leading zero, that is 0900 like this, and press enter. You see it also returns the same thing. You can see it here. Excel recognizes it as a valid time. Let's experiment with different format. Let me enter 12:30:45. That is 12:30 45 minutes. Let me press enter now. Excel recognizes it as 12:30 45 p.m. Okay, that is 12:30 45 seconds p.m. You can see it here. 12:30 45 seconds p.m. That is how Excel recognizes this as, okay? If I want to type 4 p.m., I can type it like this, 00, and press enter. Let's see how whether Excel recognizes this as a 4 p.m. You can see it here. Excel recognize this as 4 p.m. If you are typing the time without a.m. or p.m., Excel is going to use the 24 hours format to recognize what you enter. But if I want to explicitly say that I want to type 4 p.m. or 4 a.m., let me just type 4 a.m. 4 ratio 00. Then I just separate with one single space and type a.m. Do you see that Excel recognizes what we enter here as 4 a.m.? You can see it here. When you are entering time, make sure that you follow any of the format listed here. There are other formats that I did not list here, but at least if you can apply any of this format, you can enter any time that you want, okay? Let me enter more time. Okay, let me enter 1 p.m. 1:00 p.m. like this. Okay, you can see that Excel has formatted it as 1 p.m. Okay, you can see it is 13:00, which is equivalent to 1 p.m. You can see it in the formula bar. Let me type another one. I can equally type 9 p.m. like this without leading zero. Let me see if Excel is going to recognize this as 9 p.m. No colon. You can see no colon. Let me press enter. Oh, you can see Excel recognized as 9 p.m. Okay, even without the leading colon. It simply means that when you follow any of this format I listed here, you are going to have a valid time. Okay, if I want to type 9 a.m., I can equally type 9, separate it with a single space and type a.m. You can see there is no colon. Let me press enter. You can see Excel recognize it as the first ones we enter, which is 9 a.m. You can see it. Can enter more time here. If I just enter 21:00, I guess you know what it is going to be. 21:00. It is going to be 9 p.m. If we get it correct, it is going to be 9 p.m. Let me press enter. Let's see what we have. Okay, you can see it is 9 p.m. guys. It is 9 p.m. Okay. If I want to get 12 a.m., guys, I hope you people can guess that one. If I want to get 12 a.m., I can type 000 like this. Let's see what we have. Okay. It formatted this as a time, but let's see what we have now. Do you see it is 12 a.m. guys? It's 12 a.m. Okay. Just 00. 00 means 12 a.m. What we have in this column represent different format we enter the time. We are going to return the value of each of these format in this column. All I need to do is to select this cell. I'm going to type equals to, let me just use the cell range. I select this cell range just to output the value I have here. Okay, let me press enter now. You can see just returning the same thing. Let me use the autofill guys, and you can see it here. This is the return value of each of these format we entered here. Okay, let us get the time serial number. To get the time serial number, all I need to do is just to output the value I have here, either the return value or the original one. All I need to do is to output it in this cell. So let me select this cell. I type equals. Let me just select the original format here. Let me press enter now. It is still returning the time. For you to make this to be in a serial number, all you need to do is to change the number format to general. Select the cell once again. Let me change it to general format. Then let me change it. You can see now it returned the serial number of this time. Let me just use the autofill to get the rest. Like this, you can see guys, it returned the serial number of each of this time. Okay, you don't need to remember the serial number. Okay, I hope with these examples and illustrations you can be able to enter different time format in Excel. Thank you and stay tuned as we continue. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this session we are going to discover how to enter the date and time together. Now that we know how to enter date and time separately, we can put them together to enter a date and time in the same cell. And that is exactly what we are going to explore in this session. I've already listed different formats of entering the date and time together. That means you can enter the date and time in one cell. Okay, let's jump into Excel for you to understand it better. I open Excel. Now let's scroll so we can see this session. We can use this session to practice. Okay, I've already included different formats of entering the date and time. Since we have already know how to enter the date and also know how to enter time, this one is going to be easy for you. All you need to do is to separate the date or the time. Depending on the first one you enter, just separate it with space. Okay, if you are starting with the time first, you separate it with the space before entering the date. Or if you are starting with the date, you separate the date with space before entering the time. Now, for you to understand all this logic, let's select one cell here. Let me start entering the date first. I enter January 1st, 2024, like this. If I want to include time, all I need to do is to separate it with single space, then and type the time. Let's say I want to get 1 a.m. I will now type 1 a.m. like this and press enter. Do you see? Excel has recognized it as a valid date and time. That's why it is showing this. Let me expand this column so that it's going to fit our content. You can see it now. You can see at the formula bar we have January 1st, 2024, 1 a.m. Let's select this cell. Let me enter another format. Let me start with time this time around. I type 1 a.m. then separate it with space before I enter the date. January 1st, 2024. Like this. You can see I started with the time first and followed by the date. I only separate the time and the date with a single space. Let me press enter. Do you see Excel recognize it as well? Do you see it? Both the date and time has been recognized by Excel. So you can see, as long as you know how to enter date and time, all you need to do is to separate the date and time with a single space. Okay, let me enter one more. Let me start with January 1st, separate it with comma, 2024. Then I want to enter time. Let's say I want to enter 9 p.m. I enter 9 p.m. You can see what I enter here, January 1st, 2024, 9 p.m. Let me press enter. You see Excel recognize it. You can see it recognize it as a valid date and time. Let me enter one more. Let's say, let me enter this date. You can see the date is 23rd of July 2024. Let me press one single space. Let me type 10:08 p.m. You can see what I have here. I have the date before the time. Let me press enter now whether Excel is going to recognize this as a valid date and time. Okay, it is. You can see now it recognizes it, and you can see it is 23rd July 2024, 10:08 p.m. You can see it here. Let us see the return value. This is the format we entered it, even though it is already formatting it as a date and time. Okay, but we can also output the result here. Let me just output the result. I type equals to, let me just select the cell, press enter. We have the same. Let me just use the autofill. Let me expand it so that this one will show. Okay, everything has shown. Now let us get the serial number of each this date and time. I type equals to, but this time let me select this one and press enter. It is returning date and time, but I need to change it to general format. Select it like this. You can see it is returning a serial number now. The serial number is separated with the dot. The integer represents the date, while the decimal represents the time. You can see it here. Let me use the autofill now to get the rest. Like this, you can see all of them are now showing here. Both the date and time, the serial number combined together, they are now showing. Okay, remember at the time format it is only showing the time serial number because we only enter time here. Likewise, the date format only show the date serial number because we only enter date. But when we combine it together, you can see that it is showing both the date and time serial number. I hope with these examples and illustration, you know how to enter the date and time format together in a single cell. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned as we dive into date and time functions in Excel. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to identify if dates are entered as a text or a date serial number. When you are entering a date, you can enter it as a text when it is needed or as a date serial number when it is needed. And how do you identify if a date is entered as a text or actually date serial number? To identify, that is exactly what we are going to uncover in this section. We need our date entered as a date serial number to be able to leverage the date functions, use them in maths and lookups, or even use them in pivot tables. It can be tricky to tell if a date is a text because unlike regular values, a date will often appear the same in the formula bar as it does on the face of the cell. Don't worry, I have got several never fail easy ways to tell if dates are dates or text. For example, if you glance at this section of this date, you will discover that it will look identical to this date serial number here. This section is entered as a date text. Okay, it is actually a date, but it is formatted as a text, while this one is actually a date serial number. Alright, by looking at it, since all of them appear the same thing, you cannot be able to identify whether it is a text or a date serial number. And for you to understand if it is a date serial number or the date entered as a text, that is exactly what I will be showing you right now. And for you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. We are going to use the data I have here to practice so that you can be able to identify if dates are entered as a text. Okay. From the note I have here, you can see that the first and the second set of date look identical. It simply means that this date I have here and this one that I have here, they are identical. Okay. And both sets are formatted with the date number format. It simply means that if I select this cell and look at the number format, you can see that it is formatted as a date. And if I select this and look at the number format, you can also see that it is also formatted as a date format. Okay, both of these date values and these ones are all formatted as date format. Okay, it simply means that by merely looking at this date that I have here and the one that I have here, you cannot be able to identify if this one is entered as a date string or as a serial number. Let me select this cell and look at the formula bar. You can see that at the formula bar, I'm having a single quote appended before the value. It simply means that I explicitly enter this date as a string. This date that I'm having at this session here, I explicitly enter them as a string here. That's why I appended this quotation mark before the date. I appended this single quote before the date value so that it is going to be formatted as a text. This is because when you enter the correct date format in Excel cell, it is going to be automatically formatted as a date serial number. That's why I appended the single quote before the date so that it is going to be formatted as a date string. For this side here, there is no quotation before this, so it simply means that this date I have at this session are recognized as a date serial number, while these ones are recognized as a date string. But by looking at it, you cannot be able to identify it. To be able to identify them, whether they are date string or a date serial number, we are going to explore several ways to do that, okay? One of the ways to test if a date is a text is that the dates that are correctly entered as a date serial number will display the sum result in the status bar when you select more than one cell containing a date, whereas text will only display the count. It simply means that when I select this cell range that contains the date as a text, and if I look at the formula bar, you can see that it shows count and the number of the cells selected, that is count 4. Okay, count 4. When you select a cell range that contains the date values and you see only the count, it simply means that the selected cell range contains a date string. That is, the date are displayed as a string or as a text. Let's check this one. I select this cell range. Let's check the status bar. Do you see that it is now showing the average, the count, and also the sum? When you see this sum, it simply means that the selected cell range that contain this date, they are correct date serial numbers. So they are not displayed as a string. They are actually a date serial number. This is because a date is displayed as a number, and you can see that it is applying the sum, the count, and also the average, trying to sum up the selected cell range. Okay, so when you see the sum, average, and you can also see the count, you can know that the selected cell range are date serial numbers, okay, when working with the dates. But if the date are formatted as a text, what you are going to see is only the count, as you can see it here. When I select this cell range that contains the date as a text, you can only see the count here. But when I select this cell that contains the date as a serial number, you can see a sum, count, and also average. Okay, that is one of the tests to check if a date are formatted as a string or as a date serial number. Let me quickly show you another way, which is quick test 2. Another quick test is to change the cell format to general and check if it gives you a serial number. It simply means that when you change the cell to a general format, it is going to give you the date serial number. The first cell range I have here contains the date as a text. Let me select all of them. You can see they are formatted as a date, but let me change it to general format. I just change it to general format. Do you see? Nothing changed. It is also showing the date. It is also displaying the date. The second section contains the date as a date serial number. Let me select it like this. I selected them. You can see it is a date format. Let me change it to general format. If it gives me the date serial number, you know that it is a correct date format. I change it. You can see now it gives me the date serial number. It gives me the date serial number. It simply means that this one are correctly entered as a date serial number, while this one are entered as a text. Okay, that is the quick test 2. Let me show you another quick test to check if a date is a string or a serial number. In quick test 3, widen the column. Any dates that are text will align to the left, assuming no other alignment formatting has been applied to the cells. It simply means that when a cell contains a date as a text, it is going to align to the left of the cell. That is the default behavior of a cell in Excel. Okay, and while a date serial number will align to the left. This is because Excel see a date as a number. Any correct date you enter in a cell is represented as a number. Okay, that's why by default a number is aligned to the right. So it's another way to check. For example, you can see I have this date here. This one they are formatted as a text, and this one are formatted as a serial number. Okay, let me adjust the column, make it larger like this. Do you see that this one is aligned to the right, while this one aligned to the left? So it's the same thing as entering a text in this cell. If I enter a text, do you see it is aligned to the left? But if I change it to a number, do you see it is aligned to the right? That is the default behavior of Excel cell. It simply means that this cell contains a correct date serial number, while this one contains a date as a string. Let me show you another bonus way to check if a date is a serial number or a text. You can use Excel inbuilt function to check. You can use is a number function to check if a date is a string or as a number. For example, I select this cell. Let me go to the formula bar and type equals to is a number. I'm using the is a number function. I'm going to pass this cell here that contains the date as a string. Close the function and press enter. If it returns false, know that the date you entered here is a text, okay? Because it is a text, that's why it returns false, because we use is a number function. But if I change this number to is text, if I change it to is text and press enter, do you see it returns true? That means this is a text, okay? Let's use the is number to check if this date is a correct serial number. Okay, I select this cell. Let me type equals to is number. So let me pass this cell that contains the date. Close the function and press enter. Do you see it return true? By using is a number function, it return true because this date are formatted as a date serial number. If I change this is number to is text, let me change it. I change it to is text. Let me press enter now. Do you see it return false? This is because this one is not a text. It is actually recognize it as a date serial number. Okay, that is how to identify a date formatted as a text and a date formatted as a date serial number. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to identify when a date is formatted as a text and when a date is formatted as a date serial number. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to add and subtract dates in Excel. Now that we understand that Excel stores date and time as serial numbers, you will see how logical it is to perform math operation on these values. We will look at some simple examples here and tackle the more complex scenarios later when we look at date and time functions. When you are adding a number to a date, it is actually adding it as a day. For example, when you add 10 to this date, when you add this 10 to this date, it is going to add the 10 into the days of the date. In this first date here, I'm having 10th of January. When you add 10 to it, it is going to add this 10 to the day, that is the 10. So it is going to be 20th of January. That is the result we have here. Likewise, you can also subtract days from the date. Okay, for example, in the second date here, so I have 10th of January. When I subtract 10 from the 10th of January, it is going to subtract it backward. That means it is going to return 31st of December 2023, because here is 10th of January 2024, and when you subtract 10 from the date, it is going to subtract it from the day, which is 10th. The 10th of January minus 10 is going to give you 31st of December 2023, and that is exactly what we have here. Likewise, you can also subtract date from one another. That is, when you have a start date and end date, you can subtract a start date from the end date. It is going to give you the result in days. For example, you can see I have the start date for the first one here is 1st of January 2024 and the end date is 30th of January 2024. If I subtract the start date from the end date, which means that it is going to subtract it from the date, it is equal as saying 30, which is the number of days, subtract 1, which is first day of January, which is 1st of January. When you subtract 1 from 30, it is going to give you the result of 29. Okay, it simply means that 30 days minus 1 day, which is here, will give you 29. That is the result we are getting. Okay, so when you subtract a date from a date, it is going to return the number of days between the two dates. You can see from the second example, I have 1st of January 2024 and I have 3rd of January 2024. When I subtract this date from this date, it is going to return 2. What is happening behind the scene is that it is subtracting the 1st of January from the 3rd of January, which is going to give me 2 days. Okay, so it simply means that 3 minus 1 is going to be 2. That is actually what is happening behind the scene. For you to understand all these logics better, let's jump into Excel so that we can perform the practical aspect. I open Excel. I have some data we are going to practice with, but before then, let me show you the demonstration here. I have this date, you can see 10th of January 2024. Let me add this 10 to it and see what is going to return. I select this cell, I type equals to, I select the cell that contains the date, so I'm going to add plus, then the cell that contains the days that I want to add to it. In my own case is this cell. Let me press enter. Do you see it returned 20th of January 2024? It means that this 10 is added to the number of days, which increment the number of days to 20. Because we have 10th of January here, we added 10 to it and it returned 20th of January. Likewise, if I do subtraction, let's see what we are going to have. I select this cell, I type equals to, I select this cell that contains the second date, I add this cell that contains the second date, then let me press enter. Okay, remember when you have 10th of January and you subtract 10 from 10th of January, it is moving backward. That means it is going to get 31st of December 2023. That is how it works behind the scene. So if you want to see the formula, you can display the formula here. Let me show you the formula. Select this cell. I'm going to use formula text to display the formula. This is the formula. Okay, I'm using add here because you can see here I have minus. Okay, just using simple arithmetic operators, it is subtracting this 10 from this date here. Okay, let us show the serial number. I select this cell. Let me just output the cell that contains the result. Select this cell, press enter. It is showing the date. Let me change it to general format. Let's change it to general format. It is now showing the serial number. Let me also do the same thing for this one. You can just use autofill like this, fill without formatting. Here we have it as the serial number of this date. We can also subtract date from one another. That means you can subtract a date from another date. Have end date and start date. You can subtract the start date from the end date and it is going to return the result in days. Okay, when you subtract a date from another date, it is going to give you the number of days between the two dates. Okay, so let me select this cell that is going to contain the result. I type equals to, I select the end date. So this is the cell that contains the end date. Let me subtract the start date. Let me press enter now. Do you see it returned 15 here? This is 20th of January 2024. That is the end date. And we subtracted 5th of January 2024. That is, it is subtracting the day of the start date from the day of the end date. That's why it returned 15. That is 20 minus 5 gives us 15. It is actually returning the days between the two dates. Let's get for the second one. Let me just use the autofill like this. Here we have it. Let me fill without formatting. so that it will retain the original format. You can see that from this one it is subtracted 1 from 3. The end date is 3rd of January 2024 and we have the start date 1st of January 2024. So when it's subtracted the start date from the end date, to return 2. It can also return a negative value, just like what we saw in the explanation. For example, if the start date is greater than the end date, it is going to return a negative day. Okay, for example, if I change the number of day of this start date, let me change it to 10. That is 10th of January 2024. Let me press enter now. Do you see it return -7? That means it return a negative value because we are subtracting the higher date from the smaller date. That's why it return a negative value. Okay, that is the value between this start date and the end date is -7. So as you can see it here. Let me quickly show you the formula. Select this cell. I type equals to formula text. Then I select the cell that contain our result. Close the function and press enter. So this is the formula. Let me use the autofill to get order like this. Here we have it. Let me fill it without formatting. This is the formula. Here we are doing subtraction. With these examples, let us work with the data I have here. We are going to add or subtract days from the dates we have here. I have the date here. I have the number of days that I want to add or subtract from the date. Let me select the cell that is going to contain the result. I type equals to. I select the date. I'm going to add. I type plus. Then the number of days I want to add. I select it. Press enter. Do you see it here? I have 1st of January 2024. I'm adding 10 days. You can see now by adding 10 days to the 1st of January 2024, I have 11th of January 2024. Let me use the autofill to get the others like this. Here we have it. Let me fill it without formatting. Here we have it. You can see this one that have negative. Here we have 20th of February 2024. We subtracted 5 from it. And here we have 15th of February 2024. You can see this date here, 1st of January 2024. We added 365 days to it. And it returned the last day of 2024, which is 31st of December 2024. This is because we added 365 days to this 1st of January 2024. So it returned the last day of the year. You can also see this one, 1st of January 2024, we added 30 days. It returned 31st of January 2024. What if I add 60 days? Let me change this 30 to 60. That means I'm adding 60 days to 1st of January 2024. Let's see what it is going to return. Do you see that it returned 1st of March 2024? Okay, because 1st of January we added 60 days to it and it returned 1st of March 2024. Let me show you the serial number. I select this cell. I type equals to. I just select the cell that contain our result and press enter. So it returned the date. So to change it to serial number, I need to format this cell as a general. So I select it and go to the number format and change the date to general. Here is the serial number. I can use the autofill to get the others like this. Here we have their serial numbers, the serial number of the result. That is what I'm having here. So I'm going to select fill without formatting so that it will retain the formatting I already applied here. Let us see this session, subtracting date from one another. Okay, so which we have done it here. So let's quickly get the result of this one. That is, we are going to subtract the start date from the end date. Let me select the cell. Remember, it is going to return the number of days between the two dates. Okay, so I select this cell. Let me type equals to. I select the end date. Then I type minus. I select the start date. I press enter. Do you see it returned the number of days between the two dates? Then I can use the autofill now to get the rest like this. Here we have it. Let me fill it without formatting. This is it. then you can see that it is returning the number of days between the two dates. Okay, the second date I have here, you can see the start date is 1st of January 2024. I'm subtracting the 1st of January 2024 from 3rd of January 2024, and it returns 2. That is 2 days. You can see this one, the end date is 31st of December 2024. That means the last day of 2024. So when I subtract 1st of January 2024 from it, so it returns 365 days. So that is exactly what I have here. Behind the scene, it is actually performing the calculation in days. So you can see that when I subtract 1st of January 2024 from 31st of December 2024, the days between these two dates is 365 days. That is exactly what it returns here. You can see this one return minus 365 days. This is because the start date is greater than the end date. That's why it return negative. Here we subtracted 1st of January 2024 from 1st of January 2023, and it return minus 365 days. Okay, so let me quickly show you the formula here. I select this cell, I type equals to formula text, I select the cell that contain our result, close the formula and press enter. Here we have it. You can see we are doing subtraction. Then I can use the autofill to get the rest. Here we have it. Fill it without formatting. Here we have it. Let me also get the formula of this one we did here. I select this cell, type equals to formula text. I select the cell that contain our result, close it and press enter. You can see the formula. Let me use the autofill to get the rest. Here we have it. Let me fill without formatting so that it will retain the formatting I have already. Here we have it. Okay, I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to add or subtract days from dates, and also be able to subtract date from one another. Thank you for watching this section.